Before we get started with the podcast today, let me tell you about the Oxford Exxon Highway 6 West in Oxford, the Blue Sky, offering you the 49-cent refills, couple basketball games left at the Pavilion, also at Swayze Field. Buy the stadium cups, and you can refill them at the Blue Sky for just 49 cents to quench your thirst. Also, the lunch specials, the ribs, and much more that you know about. And we're coming to you from the Clark Ford Studio, 662-257-1900, Highway 25 South there in Amory. Give Corey Clark a call. 15 minutes. You're going to get a quote. It's going to be a good quote. You can use it. And when you do so, tell them about the podcast. Get an extra $500 off the deal there at Clark Ford. Now to the show.
From the Clark Ford Studio in Oxford, Mississippi, MBW Digital proudly presents the Oxford Exxon Podcast.
I'd say thanks for tuning in, but why am I going to give you a round of applause for something you're supposed to do, to be frank?
And now, here are your hosts, Chase Parham.
That broadcast school has really paid off.
And Neal McCready.
I deserve to be on TV.
Welcome into this Monday morning edition of the Oxford Exxon Podcast. Chase Parham, Neal McCready, Clark Ford Studio. I'd say we have plenty to talk about. A lot going on, I guess, on the court, on the field, a little bit of everything. We'll get to as much of it as we can. Probably have to prioritize. Probably be some things shifted to tomorrow. You know it's been a big weekend, Neal, when the owner of the New England Patriots getting into a sex trafficking sting is not going to come up on the first day we're back on the air.
That's a good one.
I'm just saying. I kind of keep some notes, kind of keep a little, little buck slip kind of thing with topics, and I thought, let me write this down Friday when I was riding to New Orleans and said this will be fun. We'll kind of go through this a little bit. No, that's getting pushed to the back burner. That's going to be a Tuesday, Wednesday show as we move forward.
Yeah, it's a good point. I had not thought about that this weekend. It's been an interesting 48 hours. I'll say that. You leave Oxford and all hell breaks loose.
I picked a really good weekend to get out of town. Everything from floods to the lack of water to everything going on with basketball to a car going through the eyeglass store next to Yaya's one of the nights I saw on social media. It's been Oxford had a bit of an end of days vibe. It appeared when I got up on I guess Sunday morning in New Orleans.
It did. I got to the arena about 2:20. About 1:50, about 40 minutes before the game. And nothing puts me in a worse mood, nothing, than waiting in line to park because people are backing into parking spots. And they're doing this backing into the parking spot thing, even when we're up on the third level. They had a big crowd up on the third level, where there's plenty of room just to pull in. There's nobody else there, but no, we must back in, and then we must – anyway. And so I get there, and then I live in North Point. There is the National Weather Service puts out this thing that basically says everyone in North Point run for high ground. The dam's going to give. And I'm thinking, what dam? I mean, I walk out here all the time. I run. I walk the dogs. And I'm thinking, what are you talking about? And then I realize where it is, and I'm thinking, well, I mean, it is the National Weather Service, and they're the authority on the weather. Maybe I need to get out of here and go home and make sure that we're prepared for a flood. And I obviously I don't. I talked to multiple people, and it was like, I wouldn't sweat it. I think this is an overreaction, which it turned out it was. And I get into the arena, and I go downstairs, and I get my customary cup of lemonade, and I go up, and the national anthem is played. And I was having one of those distracted days, Chase, and we've all been there. And when you do what we do for a living, you go to so many games that whether this is right or wrong or good or bad is another topic for another day. But sometimes you're a little checked out during the playing of the national anthem, or you're distracted, or you're looking at something or whatever. And I happened to look down, and I see the players kneeling, and the only thought that went through my mind was, it would happen today.
Well, okay, so let's kind of unpack this. Again, if you're wanting this chronological thing today, you're probably not getting it. We're just talking. First off, I think
you're wanting a smooth flowing.
Yeah, nah.
you're screwed.
I will say, where I think we're on the same agreement is if you're backing into the parking spot, you have to be able to pull it off with one turn.
Yes.
You have to be good enough to do it one time.
Yeah, efficiently and quickly. That's what's backing it up is the people that they're trying to get perfect. They can't do it. They're not good drivers. They've got people out directing them, and they're worried about hitting the wall and stuff. Just pull in.
Well, the reason they don't pull in, and you don't experience this because you leave immediately, is it's so hard to back out with how busy the garage is leaving. Because you can't see and everything, so it's so much easier to pull out leaving the arena.
Then do one of two things.
Become better at backing in. That is the answer.
One of three things. Either get better at backing in. I'm totally serious here. No sympathy for this.
Okay.
Either get better at backing in, like go practice somewhere where you can do it quickly, leave early, or just stay an extra 15 minutes.
It's fair. All right. So, again, everybody knows what happened. We don't have to rehash a play-by-play per se. Kind of take me through your day on, I think, how many people you think understood immediately the reasoning, everything to, was it tense around the arena because of what was going on in town and on campus, eventually elsewhere, and then kind of as the day moved on, maybe how that public opinion shifted if you thought there was a shift.
Yeah, sure. Because I think it's critical.
Because I don't know the answers to this. I'm in New Orleans. Alex Sims, the baseball SID, and I are just watching all this on the internet. You and I haven't even really talked much.
So this is going to be a little long-winded, so just chop me off if you need to.
Uh-huh.
So Friday night, there starts, and I do think this is important. One of the things that started on Friday night was this narrative from the weather people that Saturday could be, there was a 60% chance of major tornadoes. And, we all live up here. When you do live in tornado country, and they start talking about tornadoes, you get antsy. So that was part one. And I do think that was contributed to the mood. Then, as the day went on, there was, it had rained all week. It rained all week. And people were sick of rain and yet people are scared about this rally. And you get up on Saturday morning and one of the idiots that came to do the rally had put out the thing on
the state fan who was leading the 901 whatever.
I guess so, yeah. Put out the thing about, these students. I think he said we've about had an ass full of these students, and they talk. They don't want what's coming.
He essentially said he was going to discipline them the way their parents should have, was the way he put it.
Yeah, and the other comment, though, there was a comment before that I can't remember precisely how he put it because thank God I don't speak in those terms, was a threat. Mm-hmm. It was a threat. It was a veiled threat. It was a not so veiled threat of violence. And, I know that we said to our kids, this is the wrong word to use, we're pretty liberal with our kids in terms of what we let them do. We don't say no much. And on this day, we said, you're not going to the square. You're not going to the Ole Miss campus. If we catch you near it, either place, if we catch you near either place, we're taking stuff away. Cars, phones. This is one of those days that you're going to obey us. And we were not alone. There was a fear, man, of what could go wrong. And when people say, well, nothing's going to happen, well, those are famous last words. Charlottesville, Virginia, it took. I'm mad at myself journalistically, Chase. I didn't include a reference to Charlottesville in what I wrote. David Brandt did for the AP. David's a better reporter than I am. There you go. It only takes one nut. It takes one crazy nut to turn a nut job protest into violence. It takes one nut. One. And you don't know whether that one nut's coming or not. And when you see these people on Facebook and stuff that say, oh, we're going to discipline them the way their parents should have and all that, you think, man, these people are crazy. And so there was angst in the air, no doubt. You could feel it. And then Oxford had a water main break that cut off water to your part of town, most parts of town. Most parts of town are still under a boil notice, even though I don't think it's probably necessary.
Yeah, we are technically under a notice right now.
There was just a lot. That scene in Bull Durham when he goes, "We're dealing with a lot of stuff." I mean, we're dealing with a lot of stuff. I mean, and candlesticks aren't going to fix it. And so you get to the arena, and frankly, they didn't have the crowd that I think they normally would have had. There were people who did not come to the game because they did not want to have to be on campus in case something went wrong, and I understand that.
Well, and just a quick aside, I only talked to one person that was at the game because I was covering baseball, but they just sent me a text, and all it said was, "It's really weird in here." And that was before the anthem or the game or anything. It was in the pregame as everybody's kind of coming in, and all the text said was, "It's kind of weird in here."
And it was kind of weird in there. It had a weird feel to it. It absolutely did. And so then the anthem happens, and it's been documented. 6 kids kneel, 2 more join them. So a total of 8 kids knelt. And when it finished, and this is the part that nobody else has really reported that I've seen, Chase, there were boos. There were definitely boos. I heard boos, no question. And Ole Miss got off to a good start. And for just a little while, people seemed to be kind of enjoying the basketball. And then Georgia kind of made a little run. Ole Miss made another little run. And at halftime was the first time that I kind of took a moment to sort of gauge what the feelings were, because let me let you guys in on something. When your social media, I tweeted out a picture, as you know, and when your social media gets retweeted by Clay Travis, it's over. It's over. I mean, you and I could have a long podcast about what I've learned about humanity based on nothing but my Twitter notifications over the last 36 hours.
The positive there is, as we've said, Twitter is not representative of anything, thank God.
Oh, thank God, because if it were, dude, I'm moving to an island.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm totally serious. If Twitter represented humanity, truly represented humanity, I would be moving to an island like now. Twitter is a scary place. The following is a message to me, and if it happens to be a message to you, well, then good for you or bad for you. You cannot have a civil conversation on Twitter. If you try to have a civil conversation on Twitter, that's on you. That's on you. You're not going to solve the world's problems on Twitter. If you attempt to, that is on you. And I'm talking to myself when I say this. So anyway, at halftime, I had several people come up to me and express their displeasure with what had happened. And frankly, I tried to sort of talk to them and say, hey, well, here's their perspective. And a few people listened. There was a little dialogue there where you're having a face-to-face conversation, but there were a lot of disgusted people, angry people, frustrated people. And I remember you asked I remember thinking this is going to be a key moment for Ole Miss, for Kermit, for Ross Bjork, for those people. When this game's over, this is going to be a key moment. They're going to get one shot to get this right. And for their sake, they better get it right. And I was sitting next to someone from the SEC, really nice guy, Chris, and I can't think of Chris's last name. And he came up to me at one point, and I could tell that he was in contact with the league office. And I think the league office was just trying to get a gauge, a barometer on what was going on. And he said, man, there's a lot of people really, really worked up about it. He'd gone to get a Coke and a popcorn at the half. And I think more than anything, just to kind of stand in the lines and listen to the people. And he said, it's the only thing anyone's talking about. And I said, yeah, it's going to be a major topic. I said, it's going to be a national thing. And I told him, I said, Clay Travis has retweeted me. This is everywhere. It's the story. And Ole Miss won, which I thought was a key component in what I'm about to say. They barely won. They won by a point, Georgia had a shot at the buzzer that would have been a critical, devastating loss for
almost the exact shot Florida hit to force overtime.
Yeah, about a 25, 26-footer. It hit the rim and then went away and ball game. And so Ole Miss escaped with the win, which was critical. So 9th SEC win, probably puts them one win away from the NCAA tournament. And then they had the postgame, which I thought it was interesting. Kermit came in, and for those who don't ever watch the videos, here's how this works. Adam Kuffner, who's the basketball SID, will soon he'll make sure that all the cameras in the back are ready or whatnot, and he'll say, "Coach, if you have an opening statement," and Kermit will typically say, "Yeah," and then he'll go in with an opening statement. And Kermit's opening statement was about basketball and about getting SEC wins and how hard it is to get SEC wins and et cetera, et cetera. And then they opened it up for questions. And I asked. I thought it was the only question that really had to be answered right away. And I asked about the did you know? Because I'd asked Ross Bjork earlier in the day via text, did you know this was going to happen? And he said no. And I asked Kermit, did you know about the players' plans to do this? What are your thoughts on it? And he responded with, I was going to address this at the end, but I'll do it now, and this isn't, I'm not going to get into coach stuff. He had to know that was going to be the first question. He had to know that was going to be the first question. He said, I would think, right, that he had to know that was going to be the first question.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that was, yeah. You're fine there. Go ahead.
Okay. He gave what I thought was a great answer. Then I asked Brian, so my next question was to Brian Tyree about, hey, take me through because I knew it had been a topic, not the kneeling. I knew that the protest had been a topic of conversation inside the locker room and around the players and their families, because I'm working on a story about one of the basketball players. I'm hoping to get it ready by Wednesday. Frankly, this screwed up my plans a little bit. And I had talked to this player's mother, and she was very on Friday, not about this. We were talking about her son and how he got to where he is now and stuff in his life and et cetera. And she was very worried about what was going on campus, worried about her son's safety. This is a close team. Not only are the players close to one another, the players' families are close to one another. These players all know each other. Their families all know each other. They are a tight unit. There are group texts and all of those things. They get together. They break bread together. They stay at the same places. This is a close group, and it had been a major topic within that community, if that makes any sense. So I was not surprised when it happened. I was not surprised at all, really, that it happened, other than oh, wow, well, there it is. And I thought Brian Tyree's answer was perfect. I thought it was perfect. And I thought Ross Bjork's answer after the press conference was over out in the hallway was an absolute home run. And the unity of their responses, which I don't think they had really the time to coordinate. And I don't think they told Brian what to say, because knowing Brian the way that I do after covering him for 3 years, I don't think that would work. I think if he had something to say, he'd say it. And I thought that the combination of winning the game, nothing happening at the rally, the weather clearing up and getting okay. Like when I left the arena, it was fine. It was obvious that the threat had missed us. Combined with the fact that there was a unity in their response, diffused it to a large degree. And frankly, I think, despite the efforts of a handful of people, I think Ole Miss comes out of this better than I ever would have imagined.
Yeah, let's segue there. That's kind of where I want to go next. We'll take a quick break, tell you about Scripted Jewelry, scriptedjewelry.com. Go to the website, see all the ways that they can help you plan that perfect gift. Somebody in Overland Park, Kansas, just purchased a 14-karat gold bangle, Spanish Fort representing 2, popping up. That's what they do. They give you some options. They show you what people have recently purchased. They make it easy for you with turnaround times and a discount, because when you check out, use Rebels10, REBELS10. You get 10% off with Scripted Jewelry. Again, that's scriptedjewelry.com.
The podcast is also brought to you by Harry Alexander. Harry is the sponsor of my 10 Weekend Thoughts. They went up last night, a little before 6, actually. I got them done earlier in the day. A lot about this, some basketball, some football. Believe it or not, spring football starts this week, and we just haven't had a chance to get to it. So there's a lot there. Harry is an Oxford-based RE/MAX Legacy Realty agent. He's been in Oxford more than 4 decades. No one knows the residential and condo market in Oxford better than Harry. Go to his site. He'll prove it to you. HarryAlexander.com. Click on the Properties Neighborhoods tab. Filter through by what you're looking for. Then send him an email, ha@harryalexander.com. Guests will join us this week on the Patterson and Earhart hotline. Patterson and Earhart, attorneys at law, specialize in personal injury law and real estate law, but theirs is a general practice that can handle any of your legal needs. When you contact Patterson and Earhart, you speak to one of the partners in the firm, and that's who will handle your case, not some paralegal at a faceless corporate firm. If Patterson and Earhart can't help you, they'll refer you to someone who can. John Calvin Patterson and Wes Earhart are Ole Miss guys. They're local guys, and when you call them, you're going to get one of them on the phone the same day, guaranteed. So whether you've been injured in a car wreck or have other legal issues, give them a call, 662-526-1992, or check out their website, pelaws.com. Your initial consultation is free. If you're coming to Oxford to watch Ole Miss hoops, baseball weekends, softball weekends, you're coming up for double-decker, whatever the case may be, or if you're starting to look for a place to make as your home base for the 2019 football season, go to Home 2 Suites in Oxford. It's just off the campus. It's 1 mile from campus off the Old Taylor Road exit. Give them a call, 662-238-3400. Book your room and make it your home base for the 2019 football season. It's a great, ideal location for those coming to Oxford to cheer on Rebel baseball, football, softball, basketball, or whatever the case may be. And also a reminder, warm weather is on the horizon, and with it comes the inevitable debate of sock or no sock with your loafers. So save your feet and your shoes from making their own impression and step into spring with some no-shows from Dead Soxy. You really need to experience the difference a quality sock makes. Go to deadsoxy.com, enter the code Rebel Grove at checkout to receive 30% off all orders, including sale items. These no-shows are the same quality you already love and enjoy from their traditional dress socks. And again, they come with the no-slip guarantee. So go to deadsoxy.com, check out their no-show collection, and remember to enter promo code Rebel Grove at checkout for 30% off all orders.
Podcast also brought to you by Community Mortgage, Oxford, Memphis, Soto County, and Chattanooga. Underwriting and processing is done in Memphis. You're getting local underwriting and understands your market. Big deal there. Also a leader in condo financing in Oxford and the float down option. So you can lock in the rate, but if rates go down before you close, they just give you the lower rate. You can find Jason at 662-234-2704 or JLOWE at communitymtg.com. Yeah, you know, you and I had a brief conversation about this prior to the show. I was sitting on Sunday. Game was at 1 o'clock at Tulane, and was getting a quick kind of early lunch around 10:30, and was sitting outside because it was 80 degrees in New Orleans all weekend, and they had a TV on, and when I looked up, I saw Kermit's press conference, and I thought, oh, that kind of startled me a little bit on the TV, and they was closed captioning, but I watched it, and SportsCenter did, I don't know, 90 seconds, 120 seconds, maybe a little more on it, and I thought, it's getting really good reviews. They had Ross's statement, they profiled it accurately, fairly, and as I got to the park and sort of started consuming kind of national coverage, going to look for it, figuring out what was said, and I really only found 2 negatives overall. There was a really early blog post by someone that failed to supply any type of context to it. And then you had Wolken's story, with Wolken being what Wolken typically is, otherwise, Ole Miss, frankly, got kind of a grand slam reception from the national media on this thing.
Yeah, absolutely. You and I say this all the time, and so sometimes it's repetitive. These are not robots. These are not basketball robots or baseball robots or football robots or whatever sport they happen to play. These are human beings with stuff in their lives, with family members with stuff in their lives, with political views, with social views. These are human beings. And to expect them to not have human thoughts is ridiculous. And most people understand that. The overwhelming majority of people completely understand that. But there are some that just refuse to get that. That person you cheer for, whatever team, college, pro team, whatever, he's a person. He's a person with a life that goes well beyond the sport that he or she plays. And some people don't necessarily agree with the methodology, and that's okay. You're free to disagree. Some people don't agree with the sentiment, and that's okay. You're free to disagree. But I did write this last night, and it struck me as the weekend went on. Whether you agree with it or not, and for the record, I do. That required a level of courage that, man, I don't know. I'd like to think at 20, Chase, I had that sort of courage. I'd like to think it. But I'm going to be honest, I don't know. I mean, I keep asking myself, would you have been able to do that? I don't know the answer. I'm not willing to completely go, no, I wouldn't have been able to do it. But I'm not willing to go, yeah, I could have done that.
No, especially not being the first dude.
To take a knee, the national anthem. I'm an America the Beautiful song. I'm a fan of that song. The national anthem sometimes can just drone on and on, frankly.
Well, we hear it a lot.
It just goes, it's a long song.
I cover baseball. I have a lot of anthems.
Yeah, lots of anthems. And sometimes it just drags. And I was thinking, you take that knee at Osake, you start right there. And they did.
That's a long 110 seconds or whatever it is.
A long 2 minutes, my man.
Yeah.
With you, because you kind of put your head down. You're not looking around. There were a handful of players that kind of looked around.
I don't know that a ton of people saw it immediately, judging by photos and stuff.
I don't know. I don't think so.
Because nobody's really locked in on anything. They're just sort of there, whatever.
I happened to look.
Well, y'all have a great angle to see it.
But man, but we go to so many games. I don't pay attention to the anthem.
Yeah.
And on this day, I was distracted. There was a flood thing in my neighborhood. The Weather Channel. The Weather Channel dude was in Audubon, which is like 0.4 of a mile from my house.
Yeah.
I run in Audubon almost every day. And so I was distracted, and I happened to look, and Brian Scott Rippey saw it, I think, before I did, because I think he kind of got my attention with, hey, look at that. And it was like, oh, man. I know because I remember telling the guy from the SEC, I said, I know what I'll be writing about for the next 48 hours. And he kind of, at first, was kind of looked at me like, you think it's going to be that big of a story? And I was like, oh, yeah. And it is, and it was, and it's the biggest. It's as crazy as it kind of is when you boil it down. It's because of what's been in the news with Kaepernick and all of that stuff. It is absolutely one of the biggest stories to hit Ole Miss in a long time, and I think Ole Miss handled it. We've been very critical, sometimes justified, of Ole Miss's handling of things from a public relations standpoint. And they got this one absolutely right. They supported the kids. And I think it's an easy throwaway line for the Wilkins of the world to say, well, what choice did they have? But to support the kids. And I know what he's saying, and I'm willing to begrudgingly go, yeah, I get it. If you come out and you don't support the kids, well, that's that. Good luck. But they did it in a way that was obviously genuine. I absolutely believe Ross Bjork and Kermit Davis when they say they didn't know. I 100% believe it. I've had people push back and go, there's no way they didn't know. Yep, they didn't know. And
well, because when you first approached Ross, I think he was still kind of articulating and coming up with all of his thoughts. I don't think he was there yet when you saw him the first time.
Well, I texted him in the first half, and he texted back. And he'd had a town hall, one of those town hall things in Oxford.
Right before tip.
Yeah, right before tip. And, in fact, I had planned to go to that. And then there was so much stuff going on that I just didn't go. And like Carson had a baseball thingy. I mean, it's, again, people have lives, and sometimes it doesn't work, you know. And he responded with his answer. I can't remember exactly, but it was, yeah, I didn't know. We're still trying to kind of gather information, and there's a game going on. And that he didn't say it this way, but it's like, I can't go down there right now and talk to the fellas. They're playing a game. I mean, you know, it's clearly what he was kind of saying was, yeah, I mean, and he couldn't have been nicer about it. But I realized at that moment, because I put that up on the board, and someone immediately came back and go, he's lying. And I thought, no, he's not. He's not lying. I mean, they didn't know. They didn't know because they didn't know. And people, what would they have done had they known? Well, I don't know. I mean, what would have happened if anything? I mean, ifs, man, you can go down that road and get lost. They didn't know, and they didn't have enough time really after the game to formulate a unified front. The front was either going to be unified or it wasn't. And it was clear that they all were sort of on the same page, and that they were all disgusted with what was happening on the campus. They were disgusted with, I think, and this is where you and I've talked about this too, and I'm just rambling, I'm sorry. There's nothing more misunderstood than First Amendment. The people out there, and there was a lot of this in Twitter land, how could Ole Miss allow this protest to happen?
Oh, good.
And the answer to that is, but you know the answer to this, Chase, when I ask this, it's not rhetorical. When I say, do you understand the First Amendment? Let me tell you what I've learned from Twitter in the last 48 hours is a large, and I do mean large, section of our populace does not.
They think you can say anything in any situation, including in private sector situations.
Yeah, and
no matter what.
But they also believe there are a lot of people that don't understand, and I'm doing my hands for emphasis for some reason. I don't know. There's no one's watching this on ESPN 38. There are people that want an overreaching government that can control everything. And they don't understand it's amendment number 1. The first one, freedom of speech. Those, as I wrote, those nut jobs absolutely have a constitutional right to make idiots of themselves. And they had a right to gather, and they had a right to march on public roads onto a publicly funded institution of higher learning. They did. Now, if you want that right taken away, you have to understand when you take that right away, you get down a very slippery slope. The counter protesters had a right to peacefully gather, and they did, and that right was protected, and law enforcement was out in force to be there to prevent anything from exploding. And they did a great job, and I'm sure that they got home and poured a stiff, whatever it is that they have, whether it was bourbon or a sweet tea, and kicked their feet up and went, whew. But that First Amendment allows for that. It allows for all of that. And so but there's people out there, Chase, that they don't understand. They either don't understand what the First Amendment means or they don't like it. But it is what it is, and you have a right to make a fool of yourself without being arrested as long as you're peaceful. And the idiots were peaceful. They threatened violence, but they did not bring any violence. And so they were allowed to make fools of themselves and then disperse back to their caves without being arrested. And the university could do nothing about it other than violate their First Amendment rights, which would then give them a reason to sue and a reason to really have a platform.
Yeah, it was a weird deal because I sort of had a little mental exercise myself on Saturday morning. I was talking to a couple different people, and I mean, I was kind of having a hard time figuring out in my head even the way that I wanted things completely handled or whatever, because I'm extremely pro First Amendment. And you go, yeah, sure, I get it. You have every right. And then part of me, too, because I was actually looking through some different regulations and stuff, was kind of going, there's a couple loopholes here for Ole Miss to make this really kind of complicated for them and not allow them to do this in the way they're doing it. And then part of me goes, it's their right to do it. And I'm juggling back and forth in my own head all Saturday morning going, hey, if I'm, Eric McKinney and I'm some of these people, I'd go, maybe I'd make them do this or I'd prevent them from doing this. And the other side go, God, it's a very frustrating day for so many Ole Miss people going, just keep being the damn magnet for this crap over and over and over and over again, no matter what you do. And that's the thing. And frankly, I mean, I don't want to get into some big statue debate on today's show. I don't think that even changes much. I think the nut jobs have chosen this place, and I don't know what's going to change it, frankly.
Yeah, I don't know that I agree with you there. I respect your opinion. I do think the statues are magnets. Now, where you might be right is if you take those magnets down, are there still enough magnets? Does the spot where they used to be become a magnet? And I can't answer that, and you might well be right.
My biggest, where I agree with you to a point, and maybe completely honestly as I think about it, is I think it is a lightning rod when a free space zone is around one of those magnets. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like not only is there a magnet because of this for the people with that ideology, but it's also in a place that they can fundamentally and legally gather.
Yes. That's kind of
in town and on campus.
That articulated it really well. That's my opinion. I think
if you go put it, and I'm not saying again, I'm not having that conversation right now, but if you put it in the Confederate cemetery or somewhere, that's not you know what I mean? Like it's not as much as an overall arching place where they can be a protest.
Oh, if you put it in a museum where people have to pay admission to walk in, they're not going to come for that. They're not going to come gather and each pay their $5 and protest inside a museum, because then no one sees them. I just got finished with this 1865 on Stitcher Premium.
Yeah. It
was really funny. Not funny, it's ironic, I guess. There was a lot of talk near the end. It's a podcast that begins the moment that John Wilkes Booth puts a bullet into Abraham Lincoln's head.
Yeah.
And it goes into the Reconstruction efforts. And as you can imagine, the politics of the time were pretty explosive. The South had lost the war, and there were people in the federal government that wanted to punish the South, and there were people that wanted to forgive and forget, move on. We have bigger things to deal with. And then you had, well, what do we do with from a government standpoint, what do we do with the slaves that are no longer slaves? They're freedmen. What do we do with the freedmen? Do we give them land? How much land do we give them? Do we give them voting rights? How much voting right do we give them? What do we do with the people who owned that land and then fought against the Union and lost? Do we give them their land back? Do we make them indentured servants? There was a lot going on, and one of the things that started happening, because nobody could get on the same page quickly, as you can imagine, was, when people go, this country's never been more divided, I always go, yes, it has. Yeah, 1864, it was pretty freaking divided, boys and girls. The country's always been divided. One of the things that happened was people had lost their family members in the war, and they started putting up monuments. to honor them. And those monuments have popped up, and they've been up, and still we're still a really young country. I mean, I'm not trying to turn this into an American history podcast, but this is a really young country, and we're still kind of figuring it out. We're only on our 45th president. And so those monuments are up, and as time goes on, and I really do believe this, as time goes on and generations pass, breaking, we all die. As generations pass, I just think the ability for people to contextualize things gets lost over time. And the way our society is now, I just think those things are lightning rods. I just think those things are magnets in a state, especially where, I mean, like Chris McDaniel posted on his Facebook page, calling out the kids that did that and using it for political gain. What an ass. You're a jackass.
Oh, jumping on the low-hanging fruit. And,
yeah, but it's so easy in a state like this one that has the Confederate flag as part of its flag. It's so easy in a state like this one where so many politicians grab at the lowest of the low-hanging fruit because it works. It's complicated. It's not easy. And so for really one of the first times that I can remember, I think Ole Miss got out in front of something and came out really looking. If you did winners and losers from this on Saturday, Ole Miss is a big winner.
Yeah, no doubt about that. We'll probably hit a little bit of this more in a second. Again, still want to get to a little basketball and baseball today. But again, we got all week. You're always here with us, so we'll do what we can. But we'll tell you real quickly about Mastercuts Lawn and Landscape. MasterCutsLawn.com, 662-607-7773. Info at GoMastercuts.com is the email address. You get free quotes just by giving them a call. They'll come look at everything, tell you what they can do for you, from basic maintenance to flower bed repair, building structures, fences, patios, decks, all sorts of stuff. There with Mastercuts. Again, MasterCutsLawn.com, 662-607-7773.
My post-game columns, this podcast, are sponsored by Pinnacle Trust. Pinnacle Trust is based in Madison, Mississippi. It represents clients in 24 states. It has advisors in 3. Founded in 1997, Pinnacle Trust provides detailed, specialized investment management, financial planning, retirement planning for individuals and businesses, and much more. At Pinnacle Trust, investing is treated like a commodity. Decisions are made using objective information and research, not emotions. I've seen what they do. I've seen them put together a plan for a family that brings in $900,000 a year. I've seen what they do for a family that brings in $60,000 a year. People make different amounts of money. People have different dreams. People have different goals. People have different expenses. People have different things that they want to do in retirement. Some people want to travel the world. Some people just want to have a garden that they go sit in peacefully. There's no right or wrong, but everybody's different. And so what Penn Trust does is they listen to you, and then they put a plan together that matches your needs, your goals, your dreams, your expenses, your reality. And they put together a plan that gives you peace, that lets you know that, hey, when I'm ready to retire, I'm going to be able to retire. So go to PinnTrust.com, PINN Trust.com. Mention you heard about Pinnacle Trust on the podcast. You'll get 10% off your first year's fee. Podcast also brought to you in part by the Westin Jackson. If you are passing through Jackson, if you're doing business in Jackson, stay at the Westin Jackson. You will be thrilled that you did. There's no better place to stay in all of the capital city. If you live in or around Jackson, go to Westin Jackson and visit Soul Spa. It's the ultimate luxury spa experience in downtown Jackson. Indulge in personalized massages, signature facials, soothing body treatments, and much more on their extensive spa list. Escape from the everyday, rejuvenate yourself in their luxury spa today, and then stop by Estelle Wine Bar and Bistro, sip on a creative craft cocktail, or enjoy their curated wine list. It's open for breakfast, lunch, dinner, and Sunday brunch. Chef Caden's mission is to connect guests with the community through local partnerships, so gather at Estelle tonight.
Podcast also brought to you by Blow Dry Bar Oxford. That's 662-638-3310. 1801 Jackson Avenue, 10 to 6 Tuesday to Friday, 10 to 3 on Saturday. Voted Oxford's best new business in 2018. Go in, get that gift card for the special lady in your life. It's one of our 4%ers listening. Go treat yourself. They're at Blow Dry Bar, Oxford. They got tons of different things, including the ever-popular Blowout and much more. So stop in, let them take care of you, and tell them Rebelgrove.com sent you, because they will give you a discount for your purchase. I cannot talk today. 662-638-3310. All right. Yeah, I don't even know where we were at there. I've got so many thoughts. It's probably going to take like a week to unpack all this, but that's okay. You and I talked about this. Let's go here, and we'll kind of close for now, because, again, I don't want to get so off in the weeds on the statue that we don't come back. We'll probably go there again tomorrow. Wolken emphasized it because, frankly, he had a little bit of a point, and it allowed him to then be the ass that he typically is toward Ole Miss.
Yes.
I think that was it was the catalyst for it. I thought that overall, the national media, and they usually don't say this, did a really nice job with context when it came to taking what Kermit said during his introductory press conference about his players respecting the anthem and applying it to the situation in Oxford this weekend without making it some broad-based Kaepernick, the way the protest. What makes that a suitable protest and what makes that an unsuitable protest?
Yeah, look, you and I talked about this before we started, and I want to be careful here because anything that I say along these lines will absolutely be used against me. Kermit, in his opening press conference when he got the job, unprovoked, unprompted, talked about how his players would respect the anthem and all that stuff. I didn't understand it at the time because it hadn't been a problem. There were a lot of problems with Andy, I guess, but that wasn't one of them. I mean, Andy's players stood for the anthem. All the other teams have stood for the anthem.
It has not been a big deal in college basketball.
Yeah, and never been an issue at Ole Miss, home or away.
No.
He took some criticism for saying it. So people were like, what was that about? And he had to go back and sort of readdress it, and it was fine. But that created an opening. No question. That created an opening for guys like Wolken who their feelings are hurt. All of you who have attacked him on Twitter, you have hurt his feelings. He's a national media member who's got an agenda, no question about it. He does not like Ole Miss. I think that's fair. He cannot let it go, and everybody who has come after him and called him names that probably have hit way too close to home, you have hurt his feelings, and he cannot let it go. That's more than fair. But yeah, the fact that Kermit said that in last March or early April, whenever that was, the fact that he said that allowed an opening. It allowed him to say, so has he changed? Because his players didn't, quote, respect the anthem, end quote, on Saturday, and now he supports his players. Is that a forced BS column? Of course. It's totally forced. It's totally a crock of you-know-what. But that's what created the opening. But the thing is, and I know this because I just trust me, I do. Wolken was trying to argue with people at Ole Miss that this was about police brutality, that this was a more social, a more
national scope, if you will.
Yes, a more overarching social statement. And like I wrote in 10 Thoughts, there's absolutely no question that police brutality, racial inequality, those types of things exist in our country, are part of a national discussion that, beyond a shadow of a doubt, Colin Kaepernick, by doing what he did and by the reaction that it was met with from the President of the United States, from the owners of the NFL, there is no question that what Colin Kaepernick did raised the volume of that conversation and increased the spotlight on that conversation. No question about it. And if the Ole Miss players kneel again on Wednesday night, which I don't expect, but if they do, well, then it's a different conversation. Because now we're not talking about a rally that's happening outside. We're talking about this is something different, and they'll have to come up with a different answer at that point. But if they don't, and I don't think they will, you have to take everyone's word for it that this was a response to what was going on their campus that day, that was organized by people who aren't part of the campus, who aren't part of the University of Mississippi, who aren't part of the Oxford community. It was outsiders who came to create that, to bring their hate language and such to Oxford. It was their response to that. And when you're just unwilling, as Dan is, to say, yep, that's all it was. Did they get the idea to kneel from Colin Kaepernick? Yeah, probably. But they weren't talking about police brutality.
Yeah, the justifiable conversation that was so lost in that opinion commentary that he had was what situations create an opening for that vehicle of protest to be appropriate and which ones aren't because of the national discussion. That was the fine line thought process that would have made for an intriguing thing, but it gets lost with all the other crap, if you will, to me.
Yeah, well, because his agenda is such that he's unwilling to
just stick with that lane. Just here's the one thing that is fairly intriguing is what makes this a vehicle it's positive versus other ones that aren't. But nonetheless, here we are.
Yes, and that's the question of, well, did Kermit change his mind? Is fair. But when the answer is, no, not really, but this was different. Look, Kermit probably never, I'm sure if he had a do-over, we all wish we had do-overs on some things in life.
Of course.
I mean, I'm sure if he had a do-over, he probably wouldn't have said that.
Of course.
At his introductory press conference. But there was no way that day that Kermit Davis could have known, hey, late February next season, while we're getting ready to tip off against an SEC opponent, there's going to be a hate group marching from Oxford to Ole Miss
during your game.
Yeah, literally as we're tipping off, and my players are going to protest by peacefully kneeling. There's no way that, I mean, come on, listen, Kermit makes good money at Ole Miss, but if he has that much clairvoyance, he's wasting a skill because he needs to go to Vegas and just load up. I mean, predict everything from here on out for the next year and go float around on an island someplace. I mean, although I think Kermit would still coach basketball because I think it's just absolutely in his blood, but go coach a team on the island. Go coach the Bahamian national team from your island mansion. I mean, give me a break. There's no way he could have known that. And so the column ends up being a joke, and for the most part, people have called him out on it. And Dan's got an anti-Ole Miss agenda that goes way back, and it apparently has no bounds. And I'm sure he'll listen to this podcast. Dan, if you're listening, hope you're having a good morning. I have no doubt that he reads message boards, that he follows people on Twitter, that he engages people on Twitter. It is, to this day, one of the oddest things about him. He's a national guy at a national publication, and he spends a hell of a lot of time on one school.
Getting to what actually happened on the court on Saturday, Ole Miss beats Georgia 72-71. As you said, shot in the air for the Bulldogs doesn't go in. Ole Miss absolutely had to have it, and they got it by the skin of their teeth, but no beauty contest here. It's a win. Ole Miss now 19-8, 9-5 in the SEC, and when you pull up their team sheet, every single loss but one is a quadrant 1 loss, so a good resume still for the Rebels. South Carolina, the one exception. That road loss is a quadrant 2 loss because Carolina's 81 in the net as of this morning. Top 75 would make that a quadrant 1 loss for the Rebels. And even with the win, they fell to 37 in the net, so it shows you just how big that one shot not falling was, because we're having a whole different talk right now had it gone the other way.
The swimsuit portion of this competition is over.
Yep.
You no longer have to be pretty to win. You just got to win. Just got to go win. And they won. The committee will view it as a W, and that'll be that.
Was it the question and answer there at the end? You just got to don't be a moron in the question and answer segment, right?
Yeah, just give the canned response. Stay on point.
What is it you say? You say world peace, right? What's the one thing you want in the world? World peace. And Ole Miss gets in the tournament.
Yeah, I just want world peace.
Don't bring up abortions or gun control or anything that might get a little squirrely on you. World peace.
The swimsuit portion of the contest is over. They have done the meat market portion. It's done. Now just ask for world peace and stay cool. Don't do anything stupid for the next few hours, and you'll have a shot. And that's where Ole Miss is. And so, look, here's where they are. It's very simple. People go, what do you think? What do you think? Here's what I think. They've got 2 shots, one starting on Wednesday, one the next Tuesday or Wednesday. I can't remember what day that is. Against Tennessee and then Kentucky. Win one of those 2 games. Win one of those 2 games, and the whole thing's over. You're in, no matter what happens the rest of the way. Tennessee's net as of yesterday, Chase, I think is 8. Kentucky's is 5. I might be off a number, but it doesn't matter. Top 10. Win one of those and you're in. The losses don't hurt you. A win puts you in the tournament. If you don't win those 2 games, if you lose to both Kentucky and Tennessee, I think they've got to win one of the other 2 road games. At Arkansas, at Missouri. Win one of them and you're in. Win both of them, and you're absolutely in. I mean, you're just coasting. But win one of them, and I think you're okay because the bubble's so bad. But you got to win another game, and I think they're going to. I think they're going to win in Fayetteville on Saturday. And Tennessee's going to be a really tough challenge. They're deep, they're tough. I watched them against LSU the other day. But it can happen. Ole Miss's guards have to play an elite game, all 3 of them. And then they're going to have to get some contributions from other people. And if they do that, I think they're going to take it into the last 6-7 minutes with a chance. Kentucky's playing at a super high level right now. I don't know that anybody can beat them. What they did to Auburn the other day ought to send shockwaves through people. But I do think Ole Miss will win in Fayetteville, and I think there's a real shot that they win in Columbia. Got to win one of them, though. If they get to 10, I think they're probably in. If they get to 11, they're absolutely in. South Carolina lost at Mississippi State, so they're back to a tie for 4th. South Carolina's got a weird week. They play Alabama, who's desperate for wins, and they play a Texas A&M team that right now is playing about as well as anybody in the league.
Went to Fayetteville and won on Saturday.
Yeah, Texas A&M's and beat Alabama earlier in the week. Texas A&M's playing pretty well right now. They could beat South Carolina, so there's still a chance to get that 4 spot. I don't know that it really matters. I've had people say, "Does it matter?" No, I don't. Not really. Just win. Win 2 of these next 4, and you're all good. Absolutely all good. Win one of these next 4, and you're probably good. Beat Tennessee on Wednesday night, and you're in. You can pop the champagne.
Yeah, if you told me they won one or the other, I would certainly think it's Wednesday and not the next Wednesday. Yeah, that matchup just feels better for multiple reasons. Number one, Tennessee's kind of come back to earth a little bit. They're sort of off that high of that 19-game winning streak or whatever it was. And as we talked about, and what's been their positive, it's almost like, it's probably a bad example, but I'm going to go there anyway. Everybody talked about their lack of top 100 players. And now, look, Grant Williams obviously is a stud, National Player of the Year candidate. But everybody talks about their lack of top 100 players as like this badge of honor and this thing. And it is. I get it. But it's kind of like the Saints. Everybody talked about the little engine that could, group of wide receivers and all these different things. Well, at some point, that lack of overall raw talent can bite you in the tail. And I do think Tennessee is very susceptible to that. Maybe not against Ole Miss, but just in general. That cute story is a flaw, and that flaw will come out over a marathon season.
There's no question about it. No doubt. There's really nothing I can add to it.
Yeah.
And you saw it on Saturday at LSU. They
playing without Tremont Waters.
Yeah, without Tremont Waters, LSU still with Naz Reid. God, he's so good.
Well, he only scored 1 point, right?
Yeah, but he's such a presence. They have 2 guys that are at the basket.
Him and Bigby Williams.
Yes, with such presence that it impacts what you do. It's like when you watch in the NBA and you watch Utah. You see NBA players impacted by Rudy Gobert's presence at the rim. You see it with Denver with Jokic. Guys that are truly presence around the rim change the game, and LSU's got two of them. Tennessee doesn't really have that. They play with tenacity and toughness, and Admiral Schofield, I'd like to look like that one day of my life just to see what it felt like. Grant Williams is just a really good player. They have a bunch of good players and they play hard, but they don't have great players. They don't have NBA superstars on their team. So to answer your question, I think if you told me they won one of the two, I'd pick Tennessee because Tennessee might be scuffling a little right now. Kentucky's still a young team, and I'm still waiting. Kentucky's kind of due a don't show up game here soon, but Calipari doesn't get enough credit for the job that he does with these kids, and this team's really good, and they're a weird play against LSU from really being on a roll right now and playing their way into like a one seed kind of a conversation. They're really, really good. Tennessee's really, really good. But I think Ole Miss has a chance in both of those games, but they have to play. And Ole Miss hasn't done this in a little while. They've got to play a special game. And maybe they will. They're going to play hard for each other. They're going to play hard for the school. Those kids have to feel awfully good about the way the school responded. Those kids have to feel awfully good about the way the fans have responded. Those kids have to feel awfully good about the way that they stuck with each other. They know they can win. They know they can get to the tournament with a win. There's no doubt in my mind that Ole Miss will be a focused, fired up, ready to play basketball team on Wednesday night. Now, will that be enough? I mean, the odds say no, but they'll have a shot, and if they get it, it'll be a celebration that I suspect the Pavilion's never really seen before.
Yeah, Tennessee and Kentucky and LSU all tied at the top of the SEC at 12-2 in the league. Tennessee 23-3 overall, Kentucky 23-4, LSU 22-5, Ole Miss and Carolina, as you mentioned, at 4. State, Florida at 6 tie, one game back of the Rebels and the Gamecocks at 8-6, and then Auburn, Alabama at 7-7. They're tied for 8. So just a quick little look at the conference, and we'll move on in a second. First, let me tell you about G&M Pharmacy. They're in Oxford on South Lamar. You know they deliver locally into your home or workplace. You know they've got MedSync to make sure all the medicine is synced up and ready to go at the time of the month that you need it. And they're also telling you about pharmaceutical-grade CBD oil now. It's hemp. It's not marijuana. Not going to hallucinate. But it does help a lot of different people with multiple issues and conditions, including depression, anxiety, pain, insomnia, and more. It's also FDA approved. You don't get that always on the internet when you purchase it, but you will with G&M. So you can call them ahead, take advantage of that if you like. So they have capsules, they have talkable salves, and oil as well there at G&M. So give them a call, 662-236-2222.
Podcast also brought to you by Grenada Nissan. If you're in the market for a Nissan vehicle, Grenada Nissan's the place to go. It's just off Interstate 55 in Grenada, Mississippi. GrenadaNissanUSA.com. Also brought to you by John Edwards, Regency Travel Incorporated in Memphis. You know how it works with John. You give him a call, you give him some parameters, you give him a budget, and he'll give you options that you wouldn't find on your own. He's part of Virtuoso. It's a worldwide network of travel partners that allows him to give his clients added values, unique benefits that you're not going to find on your own. So give him a call, 901-494-3387, or send him an email at jedwards@regencytravel.net. First-time clients save $50 off their first booked trip just by telling John you heard about Regency Travel on the podcast. And we're brought to you by OUB, Oxford University Bank, locally owned and operated right here in Oxford. It gives you the comfort of home, all the benefits the big mega banks provide, all the technology and products you can want, all with the personal touch. And when you call OUB, you speak directly with a live person. No 10 buttons to push, no 5-minute wait. OUB offers its customers the absolute best cash checking account. It's called Kasasa. And with Kasasa, OUB will pay customers 2.5% interest on their balances up to $50,000 and refund ATM fees nationwide. To learn more about OUB, check out Live Oxford, bankoxford.com, or call 662-234-6668. OUB is FDIC insured.
So just looking at it quickly, let's see real quick. I had one more thing with basketball before I move on to baseball for a second. I want to pull up KenPom and see what the percentage chance they were giving Ole Miss on Wednesday night was after the way the last couple weeks have gone. Get it real quick. Check it. All right. 33%. So 1 in 3 for Ole Miss against Tennessee on Wednesday. They were predicting a 78-73 Volunteer win.
Yeah, about that.
Giving them 49% of a chance in Fayetteville on Saturday. They're expecting a 75-74 loss. They're expecting a 74-68 loss to Kentucky, giving them a 29% chance. And then they have them predicted to beat Missouri in Columbia on the final day of the regular season. So that's where it's at.
Yeah, I think they're winning in Fayetteville Saturday.
Okay. Baseball goes 3-1 in the week. You know about the Arkansas State midweek win, 15-3, and then they took 2 out of 3 from Tulane in uptown New Orleans over the weekend, winning Friday and Sunday, 6-4 on Friday, 6-3 on Sunday. A lot of teeth gnashing. At the end of the day, they were one swing away from the sweep as Tulane hit a walk-off on a Saturday that, look, I wrote about it, and look, the pitching was not good. A lot of balls got squared up. It's hard to explain just how hard it must have been to pitch on Saturday because the wind was blowing dead out at about 20 to 25 mile per hour sustained winds. I mean, it was blustering out of that place. Anything up in the air was gone. And on Sunday, it reversed and blew straight in, and suddenly you have a pitching duel. It's amazing how that happens. Because, look, it affects other things, too. I mean, the wind blowing that hard affects life on fastballs, the way breaking balls break. I mean, it changes everything. So, at the end of the day, they got 2 out of 3. They did what they were supposed to do. Tulane's not a bad team. They've done a nice job of rebuilding there. There's a chance they could get into the tournament, I think. I don't think they're East Carolina or Houston, but I think they're probably in that next group there in the American. But it was a quality road series win. They learned some things about themselves. They've got to get better starting pitching. The starting pitching just has not been good enough. But they went in there without their ace. Will Etheridge has that blister. He could return against Long Beach State this coming weekend. I've got a notebook up this morning looking at that, looking at Greer Holston's and the fact that he hasn't pitched so far this season. It leads with Anthony Servideo, who is Ole Miss's best outfielder and potentially Ole Miss's best infielder. So figuring out what to do with him, Mike talks about that and how sometimes it takes a little bit to figure out what your best 9 are, not your 9 best, as we've talked about multiple times. And there's also a note about on Saturday night, Mike went to Baton Rouge to watch Drew play for the Tigers. So all that in the notebook, a lot of coverage from the weekend from New Orleans. But look, Ole Miss is a work in progress, but there's a whole lot to work with. So I'd probably let it play out more than 8 games before I drew a lot of sweeping assertions about this team.
That was my only question. Do you think there's enough time left in the season?
There's potentially enough time left if they hurry. Gotta get moving, though. You know, that RPI probably isn't very good right now. That could be a postseason hindrance, I think, if they're not
Feels
careful.
like the season's getting away from them.
You know, Wright State beat Oklahoma State a game this week, too. So maybe you don't fire him for that loss last Saturday against Wright State.
Why do you think he hasn't been fired yet?
Well, I saw one thing on the message board yesterday. They said they ought to just switch hitting coaches with the Tulane guy. Ole Miss scored 20-something runs this weekend.
Did they even talk about that? Because let me ask you this. What if you traded the Ole Miss hitting coach and a coach to be named later for the Tulane hitting coach? Would you have been able to get that done on, say, Saturday morning?
Could you get an extra left-hander for the bullpen, too?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, okay, here's what you could do. You could add a left-hander to the deal, and you give up some of your international slot money.
Yeah. TV contract stuff, maybe?
Yeah, I mean, there's just ways around some things. I mean, what if you traded, like, doesn't Ole Miss have like a 4th or 5th infielder that they're not really using? They could include him in the deal. They could include him in the deal. I mean, if you really, well, I mean, it's just – it feels like they've got to do something big at the trade deadline.
Okay.
I'm being a jerk right now. I'm not really trying to be. I'm just telling people you cannot do this to yourself in February. The people that are doing this pitch by pitch deal in February, you're turning a baseball season into a torture exercise, and you're doing it to yourself. There's lots of time. Ole Miss might some of the issues that it has are going to be resolved because time resolves things. Some of the issues might become bigger issues, There are things that you still have to work out. If you're peaking and playing your very best baseball in February, that's usually coaches lose sleep over that. You want to have some of the issues exposed early so that you have a chance to work around them. It's a long season. They've got plenty of time to fix stuff. It's a really talented team, and as you said, they went down to New Orleans without their ace, and were a pitch or two away from a sweep. Was it beautiful? No. Is it perfect? No. Is that effort going to win the College World Series? No. But the College World Series is not in February.
Yeah. A couple things. The negatives, again, pitching. Got to get better. I wrote about that a lot. I mean, Mike was pretty honest about it. He sort of laughed, and he goes, yeah, it hadn't been very good. It'll get better. That's what he said yesterday. He mentioned the game on Friday. He said there's a lot of traffic out there, which they got a little lucky. More of that traffic did not cross home plate, but they got out of it. And then from the positives, they're just hitting the crap out of it. Thomas Dillard, probably the SEC Player of the Week, I would assume. He hit 3 home runs, at least 1 double, a triple, and had 13 RBIs this week. That's pretty good. His OPS was 2.088 going into yesterday.
Yeah, that's pretty solid.
That's solid. But get into most lineups. Cooper Johnson has been fantastic defensively. Not just good, fantastic.
As long as he's fantastic, there's absolutely no reason to put Dillard swinging that bat anywhere.
Yeah, keep Dillard in the outfield where his hands are nice and healthy.
Yeah, just tell him, hey, we really don't need you to run into a wall.
Frankly, he's hitting so well and Johnson's so good, I'd be tempted to just play one of the freshmen in midweek games if you got to give somebody a rest. Just deal with it.
Absolutely, no doubt.
Yeah, just Leposer, get in there and do the best you can.
Yes, because in the whole picture, when you're trying to max out a team, and that's ultimately what a coach is trying to do, figure out how do I max this group out? How do I get every drop out of that orange? Their maxed out is Johnson playing elite defense and Dillard having an almost unstoppable bat in the middle of the lineup.
Yeah.
And so you just don't play with that.
Dillard is getting Keenan much better pitches to hit. He's hitting them. He went 3 for 5 yesterday. It is a very formidable lineup. And then the freshman, I thought Doug Nikhazy on the mound, just huge all week long. He has 3 appearances. He's showing the ability to bounce back quickly, a little bit of a rubber arm. He threw Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday. Not long. He's fine. Nobody get into pitch counts. He is not allowed to run in 4 innings. He struck out 8, I think. 90-92 from the left with a cutter and a really good slider. He's serious as a freshman. There's some stuff there. Maybe even the best the best freshman so far on that roster. So that's some of the superlatives. But you can again read about it at rebelgrove.com a lot there. And they play UT Martin tomorrow, and then they've got a visit from the Dirtbags this weekend. Long Beach State coming to Oxford to complete that home and home. So that's the upcoming week. And we'll have more there. But anyway, just a little look at baseball. I did love – one of my favorite baseball things is the solo announcer at the small programs. That is one of my favorite things in college baseball. And credit to Tulane. They had a great stream. It stayed up all weekend. It was high definition. They had multiple cameras, and it handled the load of all the Ole Miss fans buying it for the weekend to watch the baseball team. So credit there. It was an excellent stream. The guy, though, lived and died with every pitch. He was completely complimentary of Ole Miss. He was more than fair. But they had it piped into our box. And if Tulane does something positive, dude is losing his voice in the second inning and screaming. And then as soon as a ball is hit by Ole Miss, it's like he died. I mean, it goes down to 2 decibels. I mean, Dillard hits that ball in the ninth, and I kind of looked it over to somebody and goes, hey, does somebody need to go check on this dude? Like, is he okay? Because he's talking the whole time. He's like, hey, there's a base open here. Really ought to walk Dillard, not give him anything to pitch. And he hits it. As soon as it leaves the bat, he just goes, and it's gone. Just can't have that happen. Crap. And he's doing all this. And he'd come in the press box between innings and complain about umpiring calls and stuff. He was incredibly high-strung. And then the best thing he did was somebody would throw a pitch like Caracci on Friday night. He'd go, 95 right there on the corner, or 92, whatever. And I looked over and I said, there's no gun. We don't have a gun. He has no idea what this speed is.
Just making numbers.
He's just making numbers up. He looks at Caleb Hill on the stat sheet, and it's like, Caleb Hill in his scouting report thing goes, oh, he's 90 to 92 from the left side or whatever, and Caleb Hill throws a fastball by the go, and he goes, oh, yeah, it's an easy 94 there. It's like, what are you talking about? You have no clue.
And the kid's like, God, I wish.
Yeah, well, yeah, no kidding.
I wish it were an easy 94.
It was the most like Harry Dole thing I've ever experienced because he's just making crap up through the weekend. I mean, God, it was crazy. But yeah, between that and the umpire getting on Dillard directly with an expletive on Friday night, it was kind of a fun weekend with some of the extracurricular stuff. So, because you cannot take that personal as an ump. He rings up Dillard in the first inning on a breaking ball that was high and inside by at least 6 inches. It was a really bad call. Dillard shows his displeasure, which I honestly could have gotten him tossed, if you want to be honest. And Chapman was very chirpy with him for most of the game. And then there in the 7th or 8th or what inning it was, the Tulane pitcher was quick pitching Ole Miss, just really, really quick pitching him, making Ole Miss kind of get back in the box, get set. And Thomas backed out to try to just catch his breath for a second, and the umpire said, Thomas, get your blank back in the box. And Mike just lost it. Comes out of the dugout, losing his mind. I thought he was going to get tossed. Looking back, I was a little surprised at the rope Chapman gave Mike, and I don't know if that's just because they know each other that well or maybe the umpire knew he maybe had not managed this thing correctly, but
probably that.
Mike was saying a lot of things that typically would get you run, and Chapman gave him as long of a leash as he needed to go back to the dugout.
Which is usually an umpire's way of saying I screwed up.
Yeah. I'd like for you to calm down and go back, but I'm going to give you a minute here.
Because if the umpire felt like he was in the right, he would have run Mike at that point.
Hard to throw Mike out, though, when you cuss directly at the player.
Yeah, well, you can't. You have to take it. You have to let the coach. You can't let the kid do it, because if the kid does it, then you've completely lost control of the game.
Yeah.
So but when the coach comes out and gives you the tongue lashing, you have to take it because you deserve it, and so you have to take it. In many ways, it's gonna come across wrong. I'm gonna get yelled at. I respect the umpire for that. He made a mistake. He knew it. You're right. You cannot do that as an umpire. You cannot talk to the player like that. You can't let it get personal where you get your feelings hurt. But once you've done it, you've got to take your medicine. And he did, because he could have, if he throws Mike out there, then he's showing how small he is.
And he calls SEC games. They're going to see each other later in the year.
Yeah. And so, there's a chance for Thomas, for him, when Thomas walks to the plate the next time, for him to go, hey, man, I'm sorry about New Orleans. I screwed that up.
Yeah, and everybody just chill, and we move on with our day. And it's
again, human.
Well, and what Mike did, too, was Thomas could run a little hot, so it's, hey, get in there before he says something.
Oh, no,
don't get him thrown out. Mike was going, hey, I've got to get out there as fast as possible, and then I've got to be as loud as possible to get Thomas the heck out of that batter's box.
Well, it's like when listen, every time Wilson Contreras or Javi Baez goes to the plate, if you're Joe Madden, part of your job is, now look, if someone's going to get thrown out during this at-bat, it needs to be me, because I can't hit a ball 450 feet, and they can.
Yeah.
So I've got to be ready to run out there, and let me be the one that tells the umpire that he sucks certain things.
Well, and if Chapman's really pissed and is going to toss him, if Thomas gets thrown out, that's an immediate suspension. Mike gets a pass.
Yeah.
Head coaches take 2 suspensions to miss a game, or two tosses to get in the game.
And let's be real.
Thomas affects the game more than Mike does.
I mean, if one of them has to miss a game, it needs to be Mike.
Yeah.
Because Mike probably can make a cell phone call and control some things. If Thomas isn't in the game, he can't hit a ball 450 feet.
Yeah.
Let me tell you real quick, Chase, before we close. As you mentioned, join the Rebels at Swayze Field on Tuesday. They host UT Martin at 4 p.m. It's kids' night. Kids 12 and under receive free admission. Adult tickets can be purchased by visiting OleMissTix.com. The Ole Miss men's basketball team returns to the Pavilion on Wednesday as they take on the Tennessee Vols, 6 p.m. Standing room only tickets will be available for purchase on game day beginning at 4:30 p.m. at the Pavilion ticket office. For more info, visit OleMissGameDay.com. The men's tennis team opens up SEC play at home as they take on Kentucky. This Friday at 6, fans will receive free Chick-fil-A, and admission is free. For more info, visit OleMissSports.com. The Ole Miss softball team returns to Oxford as they host the Ole Miss Classic this weekend, beginning with Pittsburgh on Friday at 6 p.m. as admission is free. For more info, visit OleMissSports.com. And the 10th-ranked Ole Miss baseball team returns to Swayze this weekend for a series with Long Beach State. General admission tickets are on sale for Game 1 on Friday at 6:30 p.m. For more info, visit OleMissGameDay.com.
So we have moved to the 6:30 start times now. I was not aware of that. Okay, thank you.
Well, you're aware now.
Thank you. People helping people. So more tomorrow. We'll probably hit some of these topics again. Who knows what the day will bring. I figure Neil's got a radio show or two, so we'll have plenty more tomorrow. A lot of content at rebelgrove.com as well between the thoughts, a lot of baseball stuff, anything you missed from Saturday as well. So talk to you tomorrow.